For more on all this, let's bring in House Minority Whip Congressman Steve Scalise. Great to have you this morning. It is a big morning. After a big night last night, a tentative deal's been reached. The president's expected to be looking that over and making his decision. It's tough to tell what happens next. What do you think?
Well, good morning, Sandra. And yeah, I agree. And frankly, the president ought to be looking at the details, because that, to me, is my, where my first question starts is, number one, we have to have the ability to build more wall. That's got to be part of a final deal. And also, there are limitations in law, for example, in the Rio Grande area, where our Border Patrol agents say they need to build more wall, and the law prevents them from doing that. We need to remove some of those limitations so that they can actually build wall where it's most effective to stop the drugs and human trafficking from coming into the United States. And then ultimately, this whole idea of capping detention beds was ludicrous. I mean, you've got terrorists and criminals who we detain. If ICE agents need to detain and ultimately send those people back to the countries they came from because they've broken laws and committed violent crimes in America, there should be no limitation on that. Those are the kind of things I'm looking at. I haven't spoken to the president yet, and I look forward to speaking to him later today to make sure that those things that need to be in the bill are there.
Based on what we know, what would you like to see him do here?
Well, number one, I'd like to see him do what he's doing right now, and that is look at the details. Does the bill allow him to build more wall where he needs to build more wall, where the law currently prevents him from building that wall? And does it give him the flexibility within the Homeland Security Department to be able to ultimately detain and send people back to their countries if they come here and they're terrorists, they've commit violent crimes? Pelosi wanted to limit that number of beds. That was ridiculous. That can't be in a final agreement. So all of those things are things I know I'll be looking at. I'm sure the president is looking at.
Yeah, and Mitch McConnell was making that very clear. You heard in the lead in there earlier this morning talking about it's clear to everyone that in order to reach an agreement, he said, our Democratic colleagues would have to walk away from two extreme positions that had been dictated to them, presumably by the far left. Who's running the show there, Congressman?
Well, you've seen elements of the far left really controlling a lot of the agenda in Nancy Pelosi's first few weeks. I mean, you just look at some of the other extreme things they're doing, some of the harsh anti-Semitic comments that are being made by some of their members. This push to have abortion on demand even after the baby is born. We're moving, of course, with Ann Wagner's bill, the Born Alive bill, to say if somebody's born alive, if that baby's born alive, it would be murder to take that life. It shouldn't be legal in states like New York or Virginia. Those kind of extreme positions, and while they don't want any new wall, they don't want the president to be able to even detain criminals that are caught committing violent crimes in America and sending them back.
I know those are all
that's
issues.
The extreme position they've been taking.
Those are all issues very close to your heart and that you're currently working on. You also have some strong reaction when it comes to the freshman Democratic Congressman Omar. And her recent views of being anti-Semitic. She's been tweeting about this. There's been a back and forth. The president mentioned her last evening, and you wrote this on your Twitter page. Good that some Dems have condemned the disgraceful anti-Semitic remarks of Rep. Omar, but their words are empty unless Dem leaders remove her from the Foreign Affairs Committee, on which she sits, obviously. No one with her anti-Semitic views should be allowed to represent U.S. foreign policy on that committee. Saw that yesterday, Congressman. Where do you stand this morning? Do you stand by that?
Same place. I mean, think about this. Right now, she sits on the Foreign Affairs Committee. She's able to get classified briefings on foreign policy, especially as it relates to Israel, and yet she's made statements, anti-Israel, anti-Jewish statements, aligned herself with anti-Semitic people as well. She should be removed from the Foreign Affairs Committee. That's something Nancy Pelosi should do immediately. That kind of action. Look what she said about AIPAC. AIPAC is a non-political organization. Republicans, Democrats, conservatives, liberals are part of that organization to help educate people about the importance of our great relationship between the United States and Israel. And she's blasting them, calling them a political organization. Clearly, she doesn't understand what they stand for. They don't make political contributions, and she implied they do. She needs to learn more about these issues that she's trying to speak out on. And in the meantime, she shouldn't be sitting on the Foreign Affairs Committee.
And to be clear, she has unequivocally, in her words, apologized for those comments. She
well,
went on
think
to
about this, Sandra. She
final thoughts.
unequivocally apologized, and then she went after those same groups.
Right.
So clearly it wasn't unequivocal, and she doesn't take those comments back because she went and blasted the groups that she initially apologized for.
All right, we've got to leave it there, Congressman. A couple seconds left. Our optimism level, 1 to 10, a deal gets done by Friday.
Oh, well, I want to wait and see what the president says about this, and does it achieve those objectives. We got to build more wall. We can't have limitations. Let our experts do the job they need to do to keep our country safe.
Countdown is on. Congressman Steve Scalise, great to have you here. Good to see you, sir. Thank you.
Great being with you, Sandra. Go Tigers.